futures by then. Loading our futures by Stack 'em high, rewrite the rules, can boss comply. Do the syntax, stack 'em wide in the coder, features by night. To pick the glitches, stack 'em high, rewrite the rules, make bots comply. Through the syntax we take our flight, coding our futures by. Do the glitches, stack 'em high, rewrite the rules, make bots comply. Through the syntax, we take our flight, coding our futures by.
Hi, and welcome to the newest episode of the Developer Hug. And today we're going to speak about the elephant in the IDE, how AI is changing web development, featuring Postman. Yeah, it's been a while, and therefore we got a very packed agenda. We're gonna start with the changelog with Brooke, and then we have a very big portion of the whole webinar about Postman AI agent or Postman AI agent builder with Pooja and Alex from Postman, and Hannah is gonna join them. And after that, we're gonna have a Q&A session. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat and we will try to answer them. Brooke?
Hello. Thank you. It's been a while. It's been like a month since we've had one of these. So good to see everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. But yeah, we've got some updates. So our changelog for this month will be out next week. So get excited for that. And you should now be receiving emails about all of our changelog updates as soon as they happen. So you can make sure to go ahead and go to the changelog page here and sign up for those emails so that you won't miss any of our wonderful updates. And so let's go on. So today we have a very exciting event that's happening actually at the same time as this, but it's a Reddit AMA. So you can actually go there and be here at the same time. So fun. And this one's going to be all about developer projects, app cards, and more. So if you have any questions, put them in that Reddit thread, and we'll have engineers, DevRel, product managers, and more. They're all going to be on standby during our window today, which is from 1 p.m. So it's already just started, but we have until 4 p.m. Eastern time to get those questions in. So make sure to scan the QR code and drop your questions in there, because we got a lot of great people who are going to be answering all of your questions on Reddit. Next up, we have a new global config, which is now available. This has been introduced as of HubSpot CLI version 7.4. So make sure you run those update commands on your CLI so that you'll get access to this. This change does address issues related to using multiple account configuration files, often leading to conflicts and time-consuming debugging. So the new global config will live at the top level of your computer, and then that will become the single source of truth for all of your HubSpot accounts to simplify debugging, improve security, and enhance the developer experience. So if you want to learn more about how to start using that, and we have a great migrate command that will help you out with all that so that you don't have to try and figure out how you can get all of your config files into this new one. You can use that migrate command. Next up, we have a bug fix, and this is an update for our webhook association events containing internal CRM objects. So this is just a bug fix to update them so that when you are using them, any of those will no longer be sent to the external integrators. It won't require immediate action, but it may impact existing and future subscriptions and need to be reviewed. So please review your current integrations, determine if any of them rely on receiving this webhook data for any non-public objects. So check out the changelog and learn more about that. And the final announcements that I have is we have a reminder about a breaking change update to the V3 lists API beta. And this is all about the V3 beta currently accepts both integers and strings for the ID of public folders used for list segmentation and returns the ID as an integer. So we're going to be updating the IDs to use only strings in order to conform to our specifications. And this will go into effect starting next Monday, April 28th. So you can learn more by reading the changelog and making sure that you are getting ahead of this. So that is all that I have, and I am excited to pass the mic over to Alex and Pooja from Postman. So happy D-Hug, everybody.
Hey, thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Brooke.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
All right, Alex, you want to kick it off? Talk about all things agent builder?
Yeah, so hey, Hannah, how you doing? It's great to be here. So we're excited to be able to talk about Postman AI Agent Builder. Hopefully, a number of people listening in or watching this are familiar with Postman, and Postman is that tool that you may be using today to build out your APIs, test those APIs, integrate with other APIs, or learn about APIs. And so Postman, we are crazy about APIs. That's all we think, dream of, sleep, all the rest of it, everything about APIs. But of course, as everybody is probably aware, AI is, I wouldn't say taking over the world. That would sound scary. But there's a lot of action and a lot of activity going on in the world of AI. We've got new LLMs coming out. Feels like several a week. Frontier models, open source models, specialized domain-specific models, and alongside with that, a lot of innovation around what to do with all of those LLMs. And now people are moving into this new kind of problem space around building agentic workflows, or taking advantage of an LLM, taking advantage of APIs, putting those together to be able to create these automations or processes or steps that then create magic for us, leveraging all the power of the AI. So at Postman, we've been listening a lot to our customers. There's a huge amount of demand and excitement around that. And so back in February, we announced Postman AI Agent Builder. And you can think of that as a suite of tools that leverages a lot of the power of Postman, but also introduce new capabilities and features that allows developers now to really get going and start experimenting and playing and actually building and even deploying new agentic workflows, which is all incredibly exciting. Now we're going to have Pooja and Hannah talk and actually demo what you can do with AI Agent Builder and the approach and the steps that you can take. But at a super high level, I think it's worth pointing out a couple of things about AI Agent Builder. One is, as you're developing a new agentic workflow, you want to be able to use LLMs and leverage LLMs, but also you want to be able to evaluate LLMs. And what LLM is right for you for your particular use case is not a trivial pursuit. It can take a lot of work. And what we've done is simplify that whole process by making it dead easy for you to be able to connect to those LLMs, start sending requests, evaluate the responses, and speed up that whole process. The other key part is then to start building actual workflows. So there's a product called Postman Flows, which will also be demoing, that allow you to be able to connect to the LLMs, connect to those APIs, and start creating a workflow, passing data and responses off from one step to the next. And then, as you may have known, there's a whole bunch of tool generation that needs to happen with all of this when you're connecting with an LLM, or even a MCP server. So we take a lot of the grunt work out of that and enable you to be able to generate those tools, and they can be used on Postman and or your own development environment. And after all of that, then you're able to deploy those workflows out into the cloud, and then have them run auto magically in the background, behind the scenes as well. And of course, the ability to be able to monitor and observe that activity is something that we're also focused in on as well as part of the solution set. So that's the kind of elevator pitch, if you like. That's the kind of the problem that we're solving and the tool set that we're providing. And with that, maybe we can turn over to Pooja and Hannah that can show you the much more interesting stuff in the actual product in action.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alex. I love that you gave a really great high-level overview. I'm kind of want to take this opportunity to just kind of walk us through a journey of not only all the things that we're doing with AI, but where you can sort of find it, especially since we're trying to build such a big community around this space. So the community at Postman is one of the best places to learn about some of the new features that come out, some of the new content that comes out. And we actually have this thing called the Postman Drop. And so, Dennis, if you wanted to share that community link, but the Postman Drop is where we sort of introduce some of these features. So specifically the AI Agent Builder is, as Alex mentioned, there's some tools for API evaluation, some LLM evaluation, building agents with workflows, and then, build and testing and monitoring and deploying. And to be honest, it's been really fun to not only work within the Postman community to see what others have built with agents, but it's also been fun to work with people like Hannah, who is, has worked, is part of HubSpot and has built some flows and workflows herself. And so we'll talk about some of the things that Hannah has done as well. So, but just sort of diving into the Postman AI Agent Builder. So the AI Agent Builder is actually a workspace within our Postman client. And there's quite a lot of different collections here that you can get started with. And so one of the first features that we've sort of come out with is the LLM eval feature. So there's a couple of ways to evaluate LLMs. One of the ways that is really great for evaluating LLMs is actually using a feature called the AI Protocol. So if you're new to Postman, if you click on the new button, you'll now not only see that there is, different HTTP requests, GraphQL, we have AI, we also have something with MCP that's coming up, but the AI is our AI protocol. And that is our brand new way to work with different LLM providers. So let me show you what that looks like. So in this case, I have an AI protocol. You can just create a new AI protocol. And what happens here is you can actually select the different models. So at Postman, we're always trying to keep up with all of the AI things that are happening in the world. And whenever there's a new model that gets dropped, I think we've been doing a good job, getting it together. And that's just a testament to our engineering team. What do you think about that, Alex? Because I feel like, when DeepSeek came out, when Anthropic came out, we were pretty quick to get them in our protocol. So that's
Yeah,
really
it's becoming increasingly challenging.
Yes, exactly.
Because there are so many, which is
Exactly.
super exciting. But yeah, what we're doing is certainly investing time and resources to add those, so that it makes it dead quick, dead simple, and fast for developer to be able to just start that evaluation.
Right, exactly. So you can kind of see the AI protocol very similar to like any request that you sort of build in Postman. So like, for example, if we're going to work with OpenAI, you can, select the OpenAI model. And now you have two different prompts. You have a user prompt and you have a system prompt. So I think I have a Gemini example here. So for example, my prompt, something similar. I love scuba diving. So usually my examples are around that. But you can have a user prompt, and then the system prompt is like, of course, like how you want your tone to be. And so now you can sort of evaluate these within Postman, and you see that you get the status 200, and you can play around with prompt engineering. So this is a really great way if you want. I think the use case here is like, let's say you want to test out different models for different prompts. You want to see how fast they perform. You want to see what the outputs look like. I guess like this is the one place that you can actually compare multiple different models at once. You can compare OpenAI to Google to Anthropic and like explore the various different prompt responses that you're getting in one place. So it's actually a really powerful tool, specifically when it comes to building agents. And I love thinking about agents because this kind of goes into a really interesting topic, which is like what makes something agentic, right? So when I think of something agentic, it means that it has agency to act independently, to make decisions, to adapt to goals. And one of the first places to start with good agents is to start with good prompts. So actually, Alex, Hannah, what are your thoughts on that? Where do you guys kind of sort of see that idea kind of come into play?
Yeah, I would agree. I think like the prompts are essential in essentially what is the output that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Alex, do you have any insight?
Yeah, I mean, prompt engineering is a big deal. I mean, I think it was an example of OpenAI published a pretty comprehensive prompting guide even last week, and other LLM providers are doing the same. And this is a great environment to then programmatically start testing and learning about what the effective prompts are going to work for the use case that you've got.
Definitely. So it's kind of cool because I love seeing how Postman has evolved, specifically like their journey of APIs, being an API platform, to now being a place to not only evaluate APIs, but now you're evaluating prompts. And I actually have a really cool example of an agent that sort of uses prompt engineering to provide inputs and outputs to APIs. So when I think of applications in the future, I think they're going to sort of work hand in hand with some of the AI protocols that we have as inputs and outputs. And I think that's what truly makes something quote unquote agentic. But yeah, so this is a cool, feature just on the comparison side. One thing I wanted to point out specifically on the security end. If, those of you who are new to Postman or haven't worked with Postman, we have vaults, and vaults is a really cool feature because these are all of my tokens, specifically for Gemini, OpenAI, Anthropic. And these are all local to my instance of Postman. So this is, we've sort of boosted our security in that way that, now you can store your keys locally to your own environment when you're working with teams. It makes working with some of these API providers and as well as these LLM providers a little bit more secure. So something for you all to explore here as you're getting into your Postman journey, specifically, even if you're working with HTTP requests, if you're working with AI protocols. So that's one really cool way to do some of LLM evaluation. Another way that we have that is part of the AI agent builder to do some evaluation is that we have this collection runner LLM model evaluation. And so here you can see that we have all of the APIs for Grok, for Anthropic, for Google, for Gemini. So these are all the various different models. So these are all sort of put into different collections. And so I actually don't have my API keys set up for this, but I just wanted to kind of show you what the idea of evaluating all of these LLMs looks like. And so to evaluate with the collection runner, what you would do here is if you had a collection of the various different AI models as their APIs, what you can do here is you can actually, I actually have to fork this, but what you can do is you can run this. Let me fork it actually, just so I can show you. It's not going to work, but because I don't have my keys set up, but let's put it in my sandbox. If you had a file like this, so this is my LLM evaluation file. Here, what I have is I have a prompt. So what are 3 compounds we should consider investigating to advance research for a new antibiotic? We have so many different prompts. Write me a short story about an astronaut. Write me a Python function. If a car can travel, a math question. Solve this. Explain step by step. So you can see that we have a JSON file of multiple different prompts. If you wanted to evaluate multiple prompts against multiple different APIs or LLM models, what you can do that, what went wrong? All right, just have to refresh, hopefully. If you wanted to evaluate multiple different prompts against multiple different models, this is a really great way to, evaluate for performance. So to do that, what you would have to do is you can actually go ahead and run this particular collection against a JSON file with all of these prompts. And what you end up with is a really great, this is the results CSV. What you end up with is you end up with a really great dashboard of which models performed at which level. So there's actually a really great demo of exactly how this works. Ultimately, what you need is your API keys, but this shows that this shows the power of working and evaluating multiple diverse different prompts within one go using Collection Runner. And so it's actually pretty powerful if you're trying to evaluate for LLM performance, et cetera. So I've actually seen this in action with my colleague Sterling, who has a lot of these API keys kind of set up on his end, and I could see why somebody would want to evaluate. But I kind of wanted to throw that question off to both you, Alex and Hannah, about just the power of evaluation in LLMs. What do you guys see when it comes to use cases there, and thoughts when it comes to evaluating?
I don't have too much insight into that, but I think Alex might.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are different attributes that a developer is going to be using to evaluate. Right? One is the comparison of the responses themselves.
Mm-hmm.
the quality of those responses, the accuracy of those responses, the updatedness, let's say, of those responses, depending on the kind of query that you're making or the kind of prompt that you're asking for. The other is around cost.
Yes.
That's always got to be in top of mind. Like some LLMs are just going to be a lot more cost efficient than others. Others are going to be it's kind of expensive, but it's worth it because of the quality of the response. Makes it worthwhile. Versus another prompt, maybe the quality doesn't need to be super high. It just needs to be good enough. And from a cost perspective, that trade-off seems appropriate. And the other is the actual performance, the speed, that side. So with those three kind of dimensions in terms of evaluation, you imagine you're trying to do this to set up the tooling to be able to go off and do that, to be able to do that evaluation can take a lot of work. This just simplifies it, speeds it up, and you're able to compare side by side. And then take it to the next step, right? Is that once you've got those responses, then you can send those responses off to, whatever the next function is, whatever the next step in the workflow is, as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's cool with Postman that you can sort of just like drop in some data files. Like I think this is another underrated feature of Postman when it comes to hitting a bunch of APIs with some data. You can actually test against data files. So we've kind of used that concept as a way to sort of test multiple different API endpoints against different things. And I agree with you. Ultimately, it comes down to cost. It comes down to performance. So, that's something you're interested in. We have the right tools for it. So, and that sort of leads to the next thing, which is the workflows, which I think is the most interesting way of working with agents, building agents. So within the AI agent builder, we actually have quite a few different workflows, and you can actually watch all the tutorials and how to get started with these workflows within the main overview page. But the way that some of these workflows work, like for example, this is a customer service agent, and this is my colleague Sterling, who does a great job explaining how some of these workflows work. But in this case, our customer agent workflow, it takes Zendesk, and it takes, I believe, some of the Zendesk API, vector embedding via Pinecone API. So you have a collection that whichever APIs that you're interested in, for example, I believe this is the Get Tickets Zendesk API. And what you're going to do here is you build an entire flow of what this looks like. And this flow is a little complex, but it's actually broken up into quite a few different modules. And so this shows a working model of how sort of these blocks work together. So just, I actually don't have the API keys here to get this going, but I have another example that's a little bit simpler. But the way that customer agents work is, the idea here is that we are using the customer tickets to sort of retrieve some sort of metadata, and we're building a template for basically how you would handle multiple different tickets. And this sort of works autonomously, where it takes some context from Slack, or it takes some context from Zendesk, and then it does some sort of evaluation, or it does some sort of input and output. And so this is kind of using the key thing here to note is the create with AI block. And the create with AI block within Postman flows is a block that really takes the inputs that you are interested in, and it uses some sort of LLM model, and it provides another block specifically that has an HTTP request, the right inputs. So this is, doing quite a few different things. You have autonomous agent response. You can notify humans to like write a response. This one is like, I think it's like writing a response to let them know that you are notified by a support agent. And it's, there's a couple of different blocks that are doing quite a few different things, and that ultimately sort of gets built out into a larger flow. But I've actually, some of these use cases are really important, especially specifically if you're working on the customer agent side, or if you're building something that is more LLM, adjacent to doing some sort of competitive analysis. But I've actually kind of built something a little bit simpler just because I wanted to understand how to build workflows. And so I wanted to show off a small agent that I actually built recently, and kind of just show you what that looks like in action. And then speaking of actions, I'll talk about a really cool new feature, which is Postman Flows Actions. So working with building a very simple agent. So in this case, I created this agent called the AI Weather Agent. And so what this does is it takes some sort of user input. So in this case, it's using a scenario. So in my case, I live in Boston, so I put in, the city I live in. And what it does here is it takes that city and it puts that into a create with AI block, which is sort of the bedrock of building some of these agentic workflows. And given the city, I just ask it to give me the longitude and latitude of that city. And so now I can feed that into an HTTP request, which is one of my weather APIs, where I can input some of that data. And now I'm going to use create with AI to basically answer any question. Given now that I have the weather for that city, I can have this AI answer any questions. So some of the questions that we like asking are like, what should I wear today based on this weather? So, because like, what do you want to know when you look at the weather? What do most of us want to know? I don't know. But I mean, for me, it's like, what should I wear based on the weather? So I was like, okay, why don't I build an agent that I can ask it something simple, and that sort of follows the agentic workflow characteristics, which is something that can make decisions and give you some context with minimal human intervention. And in this case, the human intervention is that you do have a human asking some sort of question, but you can see it can grow more complex when you are, providing some input. Maybe you're getting itineraries, maybe you're getting some sort of, you can grow this in a lot deeper way. Something that becomes sort of your personal assistant if it just knows like the weather data. So, but the cool thing about this is that not only do we have input and output block, we can now turn this into an entire API and we can deploy it. And so this is where a brand new feature that just got released, I believe yesterday, it flows actions has come to play. So now that we have built a workflow using, flows, which is this workflow is sort of, it's a flow module. You can now convert that into an action. So here, what happens is that I can take that weather agent I built, and if it gets if it successfully answers my question, it gets a 200. If I give it some sort of invalid data format, like instead of asking it a question in string, I just like give it some invalid, maybe give it some integers, then it's going to give me a 400. But this is a very, very simple API. And so what happens here is that you can now deploy it. And this is a live endpoint that now I can use anywhere. So imagine connecting this to webhooks, imagine connecting this to any place that you could provide some sort of questionable input, we can connect this to Amazon Alexa, where I'm like asking Alexa, hey, what should I wear today? I'm in Boston, or I'm going to LA, or I'm going to Greece, or so it's kind of cool because what happens here is when you deploy it, you can now hit this endpoint and this URL anywhere. And so what this looks like is I'm actually hitting this endpoint within Postman itself. So here I've asked, what should I wear in Boston? Alex, you're in San Francisco, right? Let's ask what you should wear.
Close enough.
San Francisco.
I love this.
Yeah. So what should I wear in San Francisco? I hope it sends a request. Sometimes it takes a bit. Okay, so it's 56, and Alex, you should consider wearing some layers. So, so this is something like it's interesting because now not can I ask what I should wear in San Francisco, but I can ask any specific question related to the weather. And as you can see, it's only taken a few blocks. And now you can deploy all of these blocks pretty simply using actions, and now you have an endpoint. So this is probably the fastest deployment I've ever done, to be honest, like connecting a couple of different things, getting some agent working, and then getting it out there as an API. So it's been fun working with agents, and it's been fun like building something using I guess I like to call it like visual programming. So I know, Hannah, you've done some stuff with flows, and I actually want to, sort of pivot this conversation to talk about some of what you've done with flows, what you've done with the HubSpot things. But before we go there, like any questions, comments, thoughts on some of the workflow pieces when it comes to working with agents?
Yeah, Pooja, I'm so excited about this new feature that you just mentioned, which is now I've got my workflow. It's defined, it's working, I've tested it, and I'm happy with it. Now I can deploy it, and I can also provide an endpoint to that as an API, which I think is super interesting, because I think the question becomes like, well, great, now I've built this workflow. How do I make it real in the real world? Okay, now I've got a web page. I built my web page. I've created a little chat, kind of simple chat box where I can ask my question and click go. You can deploy that on your own website, on your own stack, and all the rest of it. And behind the scenes, you're able to now leverage that workflow as another endpoint, as another API behind the scenes, and then you can then transmit that. And what's beautiful, I think what you're getting at, is now you can start adding more logic and more steps to the process to make more complicated and interesting flows that become more kind of helpful in the real use case. Because otherwise you would say, well, why don't I just ask the LLM directly, right? The same question. No, that's just one step. Now you've got that, then you could say, great, I may need a jacket or a new jacket because it's going to be pretty cold in Boston in a couple of weeks from now. Can you recommend the right jackets from different vendors to be able to check it out? And so you can imagine being able to create an entire workflow beyond that, and all of them having their own endpoint. So that's super exciting.
Definitely, yeah.
I imagine like using this in like another workflow too, if you wanted to build on top of that as well. Like you could do that, right, too. So yeah, I love the flexibility of it.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, Actions is kind of, when Actions came out, it was one of the things I was really excited about, because it's like different ways to, now you're designing an API. Essentially what you're doing is you're taking a visual workflow and now you're using that workflow to design APIs. And actually I have a colleague named Daniel, you guys probably know him, but him and I, we kind of riff on what we should be building, and we want to build a personal assistant, essentially, because I'm usually the planner of the group. I don't know if you guys are, but
in your friend group, me too.
My friend group, and I kind of hate being the planner. But I will do it because sometimes I have to. But I'm like, if I can build an agent that just tells me what to do based on the weather, what we should wear, what we should pack, where we should go, like that would make my life a lot easier. So I think with flows, we could kind of pull something off. And one way to pull something off is also like looking at the API network, because we have a ton of public APIs here. And this is where I think, Hannah, your team really thrives. You're one of our very popular public APIs. So for example, HubSpot's APIs, I believe you guys have a really, really great team profile, and this is your workspace. I know over time your team has really worked very, very well to make this public profile like really robust. But actually, I don't know if you want to switch screens, but feel free if you want to. We can kind of talk about HubSpot a little bit, and I'd love to see some of the workflows your team has built as well.
Yeah. I guess for those of you who are like, Hannah, why are you up there? So for those of you, I'm a dev advocate at HubSpot, and we work very closely with this team at Postman. And the reason is because back, it was in like 2023, when I started working at HubSpot, we have, if you're building on HubSpot, we have so many APIs, and we didn't have any sort of official Postman instance that hosted our APIs for our developers. And so it just seemed like a natural organic step to establish this partnership. And we have essentially like a public API workspace where you can essentially utilize like all of our different APIs. We kind of like group them based on like the HubSpot product or feature functionality within it. And you actually have the ability to just like fork all of these into your own personal workspace. But it's been really, I guess, like helpful and engaging to have this available for our developer community. It's been very beneficial for them. And on top of that, like we have a bunch of different resources. We have like a landing page where we kind of just fill you in on like Postman related updates. So for example, we're going to be at Postcon. We're excited about that. And like we kind of post any upcoming content related to Postman. So for example, one of our solutions engineers, he was actually, what was interesting from like a sales perspective, you don't have to be super technical to use Postman, which is really nice. And he was actually building like dummy data for kind of like sales pitches, like demos that he was providing. And so it's like, okay, like I think not just like folks on your team could benefit from this, but I think other folks could too. And like he's using a collection runner, and you're able to like export that data. And it's just really helpful. So yeah. And then as far as kind of like what we were insinuating about flows, something that I've been working on for a while is creating a new public workspace that has specific flows for HubSpot API, so different use cases. Admittedly, none are agentic yet, but that's next. And essentially these use cases, they demonstrate just common scenarios that our developers or builders are finding themselves in when utilizing our APIs. And we've heard our developer community saying, hey, like we need more code samples. We need more references on how to utilize these APIs. And what better way to show you how to do an integration with our APIs than using Postman flows? So I'm excited, like with everything that like Pooja's been sharing, I'm like, okay, I can't wait to like start using this. Like when it comes to like the AI features, because I think what's really helpful with Postman is that like it is a centralized place, I think, for anybody who wants to start building agents, and just give them kind of like all of the tools in one place that they need. And so I'm really excited to start leveraging those tools. I'm also particularly excited about actions. We've been kind of toying with ideas as far as like, okay, how can we utilize flow actions with HubSpot? And we're like, well, maybe we could even connect actions to what we have at HubSpot called like custom coded actions, and like leverage those two together. So right now we're exploring additional use cases in which we can use those AI features, and I'm really excited about that. And yeah, I guess that's my pitch. I guess I could. Well, these are a bit big, so these are not simple. So I was like, I'll demo one of these, and I'm like, these are a bit granular. I don't want to overwhelm anyone.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, to be honest, it's been really fun working with HubSpot,
Yeah.
and like it's been fun to see how your projects have evolved with being on the public network.
Yeah.
Have you seen the growth in your API usage because of being on the pan?
Yeah, I think I was just looking at some data recently, and it's like and we even have like a use case that we were able to film with you all, and it was sharing like how like the use of HubSpot APIs on Postman increased by like over 100% within 6 months.
Wow.
And even within just like a year, I think it was like it was astronomical. It was like over like something in the thousands %. And I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And so we're getting a lot of use, and it's been very, very helpful to like point our developers to just a centralized place. And in no way is it meant to like replace our API like documentation, but it just allows folks to have a more interactive experience. And that's what I think people are really needing from our APIs. So I think Postman's been really helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see how the HubSpot workspace evolves when it comes to working with some of the agent components, like, you know, some of our AI blocks, as well as like how it evolves with the actions feature. So, you know, we'll just have to stay tuned in with your growth. But Hannah, I'm really pumped that you will also be joining us at our developer conference that's coming up. So we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end, because we have this awesome dev conference. Oh yeah, there we go. Hannah LA, and she's going to be a speaker there as well. And you know, we have this award that happens, which is called the Developer Choice Award. So for those of you who are developers, work with a lot of APIs, you can actually go through the public API network and find some of the workspaces and the team profiles that you guys sort of work with. And I'm assuming maybe some of the viewers are HubSpot fans, so feel free to go, you know, vote for Hannah and our HubSpot. And, you know, that's a great, you guys have done actually a really good job with your documentation. I think you guys have adopted a lot of the authentication features as well. So yeah, it's a workspace we like to show off quite a bit. So on our end.
Yeah. And for anyone who's curious about what Pooja's speaking about, like in our workspace, we actually provide, maybe I'll be able to pull it up. I should have done that. But we do have like a guided auth. Let's see. Or maybe no. Maybe we don't. Okay. Well, this is not a good example, but what we're speaking to is essentially HubSpot has like, there's no question that OAuth, when it comes to authentication, it can be tricky and can be challenging. And especially with our APIs, we understand the pain points. And so when you actually go to our workspace, you're able to leverage what we have, like a guided auth. And it's specifically for just like our CRM APIs, because those are just the most heavily used APIs that we have. And the guided auth essentially like kind of just gives you a token to just hit your first API call quickly, and it gives you just like that instance to test it out. And so I think that's been really helpful. And yeah, just speaking to that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing, Hannah. I sort of wanted to kind of steer the ship back into Agent Builder and talk about one more feature that we have, which is our tool gen feature. And this is for the folks that are really into native coding. You know, if you're not into the visual IDE, you know, I get that. Some people are not into that. But we also have, you know, a really native way to start working with agents. And so to do that, can I share my screen again? Am I sharing my screen? Oh, okay, there we go. So another feature that we have is our tool gen feature. So you can actually explore all of these features. My colleague Sterling has made some really fun videos. But the tool gen feature, what it does is, I believe I have tool gen right here. Where did it go? I thought I have it. Oh, there we go. So what you can do here is you can search for any API that you're interested in. So this is searching for the APIs in our API public network. And so in this case, I'm searching for the New York Times movie reviews API. And let's see if that works again. New York Times movie reviews. Okay, great. And then you can select the agent framework that you're interested in this case, Anthropic, but we have like all these different agent frameworks. And then you can select the language. And what it does, it actually generates the code for you right here, which basically generates code for you to work with this agent. And so this you can sort of copy into your own browser and start working and building agents that way. So that is another feature that we've recently come out with, specifically on the agent builder side of things. So
yeah, this is awesome. Oh, I don't mean to cut you off, but I was going to say you can also access HubSpot's APIs here as well.
yes, exactly. So let's
anything that's on like Postman's public API network, you have access to all of those APIs.
Yeah.
And so it's just really helpful.
Yeah, exactly. So there's, you can work with some of the HubSpot APIs as well here and generate some of the code on that front. So I think that covers most of the gamut of, agent builder. Of course, there are things here that, we've built for your, for you to check out, like, for example, like our deep research flow. This is a flow that my colleague Sterling built that, does a lot of really deep research. And it's kind of cool because it uses like so many different templates, given this research topic, historical background, how did this topic emerge, summarize these key research questions. So he's kind of like really built a entire deep research tool using flows, and that sort of gives you some interesting output as well. So I think he has a video on it. So
that's awesome. That's huge.
Yeah, this is really cool. I know he took a lot of time building this, and you can actually find a lot of the really great examples that we have on our YouTube channel, actually. So, if you're interested in working with flows, I've done a lot of the flows type of content. My colleague Sterling has built a lot of the agent builder examples. So you can definitely take a look at some of the examples that he has there. And if you are just getting started with flows too, like getting started with visually building anything, these videos sort of help you get started when it comes to building your first flow. And on that note, I have a Learning Center doc with actions. So the actions just came out yesterday, and our Learning Center docs came out today. So if you're interested in how I built that weather bot, you can watch this video. It's sort of a step-by-step, guided walkthrough of building your first, flow and building your first agent and action. So definitely check that out. I think Dennis is dropping some links in the chat. So I believe our community, our actions, our YouTube, and some other things. And so this kind of now gets us to the fun part of everything. And I don't know if is Alex back on? We can bring him back on. But this is where I wanted to talk about Postcon. So Postcon is our annual user conference. Hannah, you were there last year. What do you think of it?
Oh, I loved it. It was so fun. And I'm excited because like last year was just one day, and then this year it's like 2 days. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, for sure. So this year we have workshops, which are always hands-on. We actually have a whole workshop on building agents and working with actions, working with flows. So that you get a certificate at the end of it, and which is really important. It's like really great industry-wise. We have a great keynote speaker. If you guys are Deadpool fans, we have Mr. Ryan Reynolds keynoting this year, which is exciting. And this year it's in LA. So it's a great user conference, definitely worth checking out in every way. Simply not only just for Ryan Reynolds and all, but just learning about a lot of the things that are happening in the AI API space. We are really having very cutting edge conversations. And we're finally talking about something very new, which is MCP. And so, MCP is sort of the bedrock, I think, that will be the driver for agents working with APIs. So it'll be a great conversation to kind of learn a little bit about that. And so I don't know if Alex is still around and he still wants to talk about this.
Yeah,
but
I've got an offer for our listeners here. So if you flash up my screen share, I've got this QR code. So if you are interested in registering, we've got a 50% discount. Use this code. Use this code here, or just use this QR code. It's going to be pretty amazing. Last year was our first live event since COVID, and it went great. We had over 800 people The feedback was amazing, and so we're going even bigger this year. So we'd love to see you all join us at Postcon. We're going to have a lot of fun, and like Pooja mentioned, we've got hands-on workshops. We've got 4 different tracks, including an AI-specific track. So if that's going to be your bag, we've got plenty there for you, but lots of other great topics, great talks, great speakers, including Hannah, of course. And we want to have a reputation of having the most epic after party. Last year was wild.
Yep. Yeah.
It was pretty fun.
T-Pain, that was amazing.
Honestly, it was a great time. I think my childhood dreams came true.
And so we're going to have another great epic after party, details to come on that. But please register and join us. It'd be great to have you all.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we'd love to see you all there. And thank you all for, tuning in. It's been fun talking about AI and agents and all the fun things that are going on in Postman. I'm always excited when we come out with new things. So, and it's always fun to work with people like Hannah and yeah, so I think that's it for me.
Thank you all. Did I have everybody on here? Yeah. Thank you. Seriously, that was amazing. Really good content. I love it. I particularly love just that deploy button. I don't know, that it makes me feel like, I'm clicking the minute button on the microwave. It's so easy, like it's just done.
Mhm.
I did have a question about that, actually. So when I deploy it, I noticed that it goes to a Postman URL. The endpoint's hosted on Postman, correct?
Yeah, so it's hosted on Postman Cloud.
Can you, is that production? I mean, at that point, can I use that wherever I want? That's good to go?
Yep, this is a production-ready endpoint, yeah.
And if I want to, is there a way to configure that deploy? Like, let's say I wanted to do it with my own, backend.
With your own backend, I believe that it's all hosted within the Postman Cloud. So the only thing that you can configure is like the endpoint URL at this point in time. But Actions is so brand new, and I know that we're the Flows team is one of my favorite engineering teams to work with, and they're just so fast, and they really take a lot of the community input into consideration. So if you actually have, that's actually a wonderful question. And if you actually have, real thoughts on it, what I would recommend is you post that in the Postman community, because I guarantee you somebody from the Flows team, the Actions team will
nice plug. Well done.
Yeah,
no, that's great. I can see someone like with cross-domain issues, something like that, not wanting to have they want to have the same URL out there.
And I can't share, Dennis, that it's been an active conversation over on our side, so I can't share it formally that it's something we've got on the roadmap, but it's one of the very first questions we had internally. It's like, great, can I actually deploy this now in my own environment? And there are a whole host of reasons for why that would make sense. So not today, but I'd like to think in the future there's a pretty decent chance.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, honestly, not having to deal with any of that. If I can just hit a button, I'll give you all the money in the world, like just get that out of my way. I think that's it. I think we're out of time here, folks. That was a full, well done hour of content. And thank you again for doing this. Everyone out there, go to postman.com and just, check it all out. If you really must, go to their YouTube channel, whatever, I won't get too mad at you. But once again, thanks everyone for doing this. Have a great day, and we'll talk again soon.
All right.
Thanks
so much.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks all.
Bye.